All right. Hello, Austin County. Today we're here with Terry Arnold, and she is the founder of the IBC Network Foundation. Terry, will you tell us what IBC is?
Shelley, I'm so excited to talk to you today because you've shown such an interest in what I do.
Yes.
And inflammatory breast cancer is IBC. It is viewed as a rare form of breast cancer, but personally, I don't like that label. I like to say it's underreported.
Okay.
Because people hear the word rare and they think never. So inflammatory breast cancer is a different form of breast cancer. It doesn't typically show with a lump, and there'll be different signs and symptoms we'll talk about later, where there'll be a rash, swelling, itching, things that you think you've hurt yourself, but they're actually signs of cancer. And it's very important people know, because I'm going to say something scary. At this presentation, the cancer is already stage 3. So women need to be aware about this different type of breast cancer.
Yeah, because I've never heard of it.
Most people have it.
And that's scary because, especially with October having been breast cancer awareness, you only hear, like you said, about the kind has the lump. They always say, look for the lump, look for the lump. But this is...
You'd hear
scary.
Lump, early detection, cure, all in one word.
Right.
October is a wash of pink.
Right.
And so one of the things I like to ask people on November 1st, what did you learn in October?
Yeah.
And to try to bring a level of education into the conversation.
Now, is IBC curable?
It's not viewed as curable in that sense. It is labeled as a fatal disease, but I like to tell people, hope always. I didn't die. I was diagnosed myself 17 years ago. It is a very aggressive disease. They go for curative intent. If someone is stage 3, with stage 4, they go for what they call long-term stability. But they have seen women achieve what they call NED, which means no evidence disease, even after stage 4 diagnosis.
Okay, so I should have said it before. You are
I am viewed as a survivor.
a survivor. Okay.
I was diagnosed in 2007 with triple negative IBC on my right breast. It turns out that kind of saved my life because I found out I had a triple negative breast cancer tumor in the other one, which we probably wouldn't have known in time. So it was a weird thing to have happen.
All right. Speaking on that, okay, so some of the symptoms.
Yes, you would think you've hurt yourself. It makes sense that you've hurt yourself. And by the way, IBC typically affects younger women. And so it'd be easy to go, oh, I changed my birth control. I just had a baby. I was doing some heavy exercising and I bruised my breast, or it's itchy, hot, swollen, all those things. And it's easy to dismiss it as an injury or maybe an infection or a body change due to having a baby.
And I would assume if you went to the doctor, they may not know exactly what it is. Okay. So that brings us to our next areas. How is it detected? Now, before I go on to the next slides, these are medical slides, and they are actual photographs, but they are edited for privacy. It's only 2 of the slides that are on your network page, and at the end of the presentation, we'll have the URL, so people can go and look at additional photos of additional things. But the ones that we chose were 2 that you felt were the most common, I guess, indicators.
I felt like they really represented it because the way IBC is diagnosed is it's a little bit of a harder road because it typically does not present with a lump. So let's say, you're 28 years old and your breast is swollen and hot and red. And they go, like I said, you changed your birth control, you've had a baby, you've had an injury, you've got an infection. And so they'll often say, come back in a few weeks after you take antibiotics.
Right.
Well, that's not doing you any good.
Okay.
And so then you'll go for maybe a mammogram, which typically doesn't find it because it looks for lumps. Or you'll go for an ultrasound, which again looks for lumps. So then where you really get into it is getting an MRI or a biopsy. Now, I'm really glad you're showing these photos because they're very indicative. Because when you typically Google inflammatory breast cancer, you're going to see there's this poor one woman, and by the way, she survived, but it's this big swollen breast with what they call peel d'orange, the orange pill look, which is very classic. That's not the early stage look, that early symptom look. That's after a few months. We don't want you to go a few months undiagnosed.
Right.
So these 2 pictures here of these women, you see that how the breast is really swollen, significantly more swollen than the other breast. That's how I looked the day I woke up with it my first time. Just poof. The whole thing was just too big. And the other one I really appreciate her sharing because it's a very faint blush.
Right.
And she's like, why is this here? This is not normal. And she was already stage 3 inflammatory breast cancer.
With just that bruise?
Just with that little bit of a blush. So the symptoms are commonly swelling, intense itching, a rash, and then you'll start to see the pores get bigger. They can call that orange peel. But you can have shooting pain, feelings of milk letdown. So what a woman needs to do is go to her doctor, say, I need to be tested to rule out or confirm inflammatory breast cancer, because inflammatory is faster and different than other forms of breast cancer. So I wish they didn't call it breast cancer. I wish they called it something else.
Okay, so when I'm looking at these, this is not like the left one is stage 1 and the right one is stage 2.
No.
This is not a progression.
No, both of these women have stage 3 inflammatory breast cancer.
That's what one does.
They literally don't know what stage 1 or 2 looks like. Okay. At the physical presentation, she was already stage 3. And again, say something scary, you can go in on Monday and get an MRI and be completely clear. Tuesday, you wake up and your breast is itchy. Wednesday, you can go back and you'll have stage 3 inflammatory. It's very, very fast. Hopefully one day we'll know what that is. But that's why it's so important to me. And I love your opening slide with the women with the hearts about it. Kind of like love your body.
Right.
Know your body. Know what's your normal. And if something doesn't make sense, seek answers.
Right. Okay. And that's the thing is that, like you said, what is it, mastitis that they think they have?
Mastitis is a common infection when women are nursing. And actually, when I was first seeking a diagnosis, my doctor told me I had mastitis. Okay. I was 49 years old. I had not nursed a baby in 14 years.
Right.
But also with mastitis, you're going to have a full body temperature.
Oh, okay.
I didn't have that. My breast was hot, but I didn't have a fever, and my labs were normal. So that did not indicate an infection.
Okay. And then, like, if you do that, then you said something about the mammograms, and that you said that they're not always effective. Why?
They look for lumps.
Okay.
They look for masses, and we're going to show a great slide in a little bit of why IBC shows up on an MRI better. But a mammogram is meant to look for a lump.
Okay.
And IBC typically doesn't present with one. Although some women do find one, there's 10% that do. That's the less likely. Ultrasounds also look for a lump. But one thing on an ultrasound you might see, if someone's more trained, is there'll be some skin thickening along that edge of the breast in the ultrasound. And that could be an indicator for more testings.
And I think the biggest thing that probably the takeaway that we need to tell people is advocate for yourself.
Yes, if there is a change that you can't explain that hits one breast.
So it's usually just in one, and then and maybe it will spread or whatever?
Not typically.
Okay.
So the thing that I tell women, obviously, we gain weight, we lose weight.
All right.
Our periods, things happen where our breasts change. But if there's a sudden change to one, that could be a sign of cancer, and seek answers.
Okay. All right, let's look at this slide. This is an MRI slide. I think this is fascinating. Please tell us, what are we looking at?
I love this slide because this woman had a clear mammogram. She had a clear ultrasound. Her biopsy came back negative because IBC is webby and diffuse. So you can see that there's some webbiness in there, and they just hit a place.
Right.
But the biopsy came back negative. 25% of biopsies with inflammatory do come back negative because that webbiness. Now, this is a woman who is laying on her tummy. Her breasts are downward to the floor. You can see the left breast. There's junk in your breast. There's noise. They call it noise. There's ducts and things going on. And you can see that little wormy thing is a blood vessel going towards the nipple. But if you look at the other breast, you can see the classic swelling. Look how much bigger it is.
Yes.
And look at all that white cloud. That white cloud, that webby diffuseness is the cancer. Now, what's interesting is all those little extra worms are actually blood vessels. And what happens is the way the cancer grows so quickly, it will tell your body, I need food. And it actually grows more blood vessels to feed the cancer faster. That's one thing they know about it. So sometimes women will tell me, my breast is swollen and it feels a little itchy, but there's nothing really different. But all of a sudden, I have a little blood vessel showing through my skin that didn't show before.
Right.
Well, maybe that's because inside there are more blood vessels. So this is what an MRI will find. Now, not all countries do MRIs. Canada doesn't do them. They think it's antiquated.
Right.
In some third world countries don't do them because they just don't have it. There is room for what they call a clinical diagnosis, and we could talk about that more later.
Right. That's amazing.
But this is amazing, isn't it?
It is. I mean, it's scary, but it's also fascinating.
It is.
Okay. And here is a misconception.
Yes, the IBC is just in the skin. So, and you got to remember, your skin is an organ. It is not just your skin. So sometimes people say, I can get treated, it gets better, I don't need to have the breast be removed. But unfortunately, IBC typically affects all your lymph nodes, which is an on-ramp to the freeway, right? To the rest of your body.
Right.
So that skin involvement is something that need to be taken very seriously versus what we call a more garden variety cancer.
Okay, so let me make sure I've got this straight. So basically, IBC presents with skin issues first.
Rashes,
And heat.
swelling,
Okay.
heat. I knew one woman who just had like a little tick mark on her breast, like her dog had scratched her, and it wouldn't go away. And she thought, something's up, and she had inflammatory. But it's typically the sudden swelling and rash,
Okay.
intense itching, things like that. Now, if you're a larger busted woman, maybe you don't notice the rash on the underside. So you really need to know what you look like. But there are things that could be easily dismissed.
I was just saying that's one of the things is even like, if you see your mom or your sister or husbands out there, if you look at your wife and you're like, hey babe, there's something doesn't look quite right. This is, a good, let's go get it checked.
Well, I had one lady tell me her husband said, I think one's hanging a little low. What's going on?
Well, and I mean, you laugh, but your husband, I mean, that's...
Well, yeah. It's
that's
hard
what you
to sometimes see yourself, as I've said.
Right. Okay, that's what we had here is that it's not just in the skin.
Well, it's scattered through all the ducts. IBC lines the milk ducts. And so it's a very sneaky disease is the best way to put it.
Right. It just...
Yeah, and we can look at this slide about, why it's more aggressive. They really don't know as exactly what all the triggers are. There's a lot of thoughts about it, but that's how I got involved, was to help fund research.
Okay, so now let's ask some questions. Okay, you said it usually happens to younger women.
Typically,
age is like...
Well, statistically, if you look at the data, they'll say 45.
Okay.
So I was 49. I was viewed as a little bit old for it.
Right.
But what they're seeing is those numbers are getting younger, and they're seeing a lot of women in their late 30s, which are not even old enough for a mammogram.
Wow.
The youngest I've dealt with personally was 19.
Gosh.
I meet a lot of 26, 27, 28-year-olds with inflammatory.
Wow. The other thing I was going to ask something else, but I tell you what, let's go, I think, I know what I was going to say. Is it predominantly white women, Hispanic women, black women? I mean, what are we looking at?
Well, they say that African-American women have a higher diagnosis rate. Okay. And unfortunately, for reasons they still don't know, seem to also have a higher death rate. Some people put that to access of care, but they do wonder, is there some other drivers that could be there? And that's why research is so needed.
Oh, yeah.
One of the things I got involved is, and we'll talk about it later, is how little funds actually go to late-stage cancer. So we don't know what we don't know.
I mean, you're right, because normally they always say detection, but they never say after something's happened, then what do we do?
What do we do then? And there is a growing movement, and I feel very grateful to be part of it, of people who are saying, hey, we've taken breast cancer out of the closet. The word breast was actually banned on television until Betty Ford said it one day on live TV when she was diagnosed with breast cancer, and that bubble got popped. And we're more comfortable talking about it. There's been wonderful movements from large organizations that have brought breast cancer to the forefront. But honestly, I feel like we've been stuck in the same conversation for 30 years. And it's time to grow to the next conversation.
And the thing is that's not to take away from what, the pink movement and all that kind of stuff. But you're right. It becomes kind of like every day, like when you say, have a good day. You don't.
Yeah.
It's just something you say, and it's in October we wear pink.
Yeah. For what?
For what? And for what?
Or they say save the tatas. Well, I'm going to save the whole woman.
Right.
The thing is, though, we've become a little cavalier.
Right.
We don't know where that money's going.
Yes.
We are aware, and obviously you need to keep continuing education. But I would like to bring in other signs and symptoms. I would like to target information. That's why we made this little card, to show, to start conversation that there could be cancer with no lump. And also take away the thought that cancer is just for older people.
Right.
That younger women can get it. And by the way, cancer doesn't care if you're pregnant.
Oh,
and
gosh, I didn't think about that.
It doesn't care. It's a terrible disease. And we need to know more so we can do better for ourselves.
Right. And like, I had never heard of IBC before, ever, until I met you. Never.
Well, and as a reporter, you want to be someone on the with all the knowledge, but don't feel bad, because I find that most medical people don't even know.
I was going to say, Greg, you were a nurse for a lot of years. Had you ever heard of IBC?
No.
And there's like 23 different types of breast cancer. People don't know that. We think it's all the same. But also, too, rare diseases don't get time on this. You got to think about it. You're going to teach what you think someone's going to see.
Right.
Or you're going to research what you think you get the most bang for your buck. But to me, the aggressiveness and the fatality of the disease warrants getting pushed to a higher level on the stage.
Okay, so in you said that this is kind of a quote-unquote rare disease. How many people does it affect?
They think about 6,000 people are diagnosed a year in the U.S.,
Okay.
which is a small percentage.
Yeah, but not for the people that are diagnosed.
Right. But also, when they look at the SEER data to count the numbers of deaths, IBC makes up the single largest proportion of breast cancer deaths.
Wow.
That's a huge disconnect.
Yes.
So to me, that warrants pushing us forward.
Okay, and I'll tell you what we're going to do is we're going to go straight into your story. Let me go to here. All right, so this is your journey with IBC, and I'm going to turn it all over to you and not interrupt you. I love this first picture of you.
Oh, well, this is my what I call my fried green tomato moment a little bit, so I'll tell about that in a minute. But I woke up in May, or on my birthday, 49 years old. One breast was red, hot, and swollen. I was normally what I call a small C cup. The bra wouldn't fit. Something happened. I really thought I'd hurt myself, or maybe got a bug bite, or maybe a rose had pricked me that weekend working in the yard. You know, because I had all these antique roses. I thought maybe there was an infection. I went to the doctor the very next day, and I did not go to a breast doctor. I didn't have a breast doctor. Who has a breast doctor?
Right.
You know, I went to my doctor, and he said, "Oh, I know what this is. You've got an infection, and you'll be fine." And put me on a low-dose medication for 8 weeks. Well, in the meanwhile, the breast was rapidly changing, and I was Googling, trying to find what this could be. Red, hot, swollen breast, by the way, gets you a porn virus on your computer. I could find nothing. There was nothing on any of the major breast cancer organizations. And an infection made sense because it was literally like I had a sunburn. It was so hot. So, as I say, 4 months, 5 months, 4 doctors, the other way around, whatever. I finally got a diagnosis, but I was told all kinds of crazy things along the way. I was told one breast was aging differently. I was told I had a pulled muscle making my breast appear larger. There was no common sense about why my labs were normal, but I had this raging infection. And I was actually told not to get a mammogram for fear my breast would rupture because it was so swollen. Or would it drive the infection deeper? So I was banging on doors trying to get an answer for something I hoped wasn't true. Cancer did not come into my mind in the beginning, right? But, you know, after a couple of months, I thought, I've got to have cancer. And I did finally get a doctor to order a biopsy for me. And the night before I went on that test, I went ahead and looked one more time at Dr. Google, and I found a passing mention on the Mayo Clinic website that inflammatory was a virulent form of breast cancer that was rare, that presented with swelling, and there was little hope. It was literally 4 lines. And I thought, that's got to be what I have. So then I got involved, as I like to say, spoiler alert, I didn't die. That women started finding me and, hey, I hear you live in Houston. Hey, I heard you live. Let's talk about it. And I was getting pulled into things in MD Anderson about being on committees, or I wanted to pay it forward. Mm-hmm. One day, I had a scene. I literally had a meltdown. I'd gone to 6 funerals in Houston, Texas in 4 weeks, and not one woman was they were all under 40. I was losing it. I couldn't escape. Even though I'd survived cancer, I wasn't surviving what I'd been exposed to. And I was really melting down, and I crashed into the office of a major researcher at MD Anderson named Dr. Wendy Woodward. And why I picked her, I really don't know. She was on my team, and she was actually the one I saw the less, but that's where I went. And I had a meltdown in the lobby. One of the nurses took me back into her office, and when I walked in, she said, "Give me a minute, I'm typing something." She turned her back to me, and I thought, what have I just done? I crashed into this really famous doctor's office, and I don't even know what I want. And I said, "I'm just so mad. I've got to do something." And she froze, and she turned around really slowly and started smiling. And she said, "You know, I've been waiting for you to get mad. You've never been mad. You've always been so grateful." And I said, "Well, I'm mad now, and I need to do something." And she said, well, how do you feel about raising money for a fundraiser for a project? I have something I need to do. It may or may not work, but I need to know for the next step. It's only $30,000. I can't get it. This is a major researcher, gets major money, and she can't get $30,000 for inflammatory. And I thought, I can get you $30,000. And I walked out there going, oh crap, what did I just do? I just promised.
Just volunteer.
I just promised this lady who saved my life $30,000 and I don't have any money. And I was laughing because this picture out here, I thought, I've got 5 kids. I've wasted $30,000 at Sonic. And so I wrote all my friends, along with the help of a young woman named Dr. Lori Gilbrenham, who has been a diagnosed IBC. And we told her what we wanted to do. We raised that $30,000 6 weeks. And we gave it to Dr. Woodward and realized we're onto something, and we filed the charity. And that's how it got started.
Wow. Okay, let's go, because I want to do, here is some information you said about the breast cancer grants.
About the time I met Lori, who was a young physician who had diagnosed IBC in her career and then now realized she had it herself.
Wait, she had it herself?
She had it herself. And God bless her, she said, I'm not going to make it. I need you to do something for me. I want you to start a charity, because I started seeing these numbers. And I had a male breast cancer survivor named Dr. Oliver Bobler, who worked at Baylor at the time. He's now at the National Cancer Institute, put this information together for me. I wanted to know, where was IBC on the research scale? The idea of starting a charity seems so vain. You know, women, there's too many charities out there. They compete with each other.
Right.
How do we do anything if there's too many of us? So I tried to find a place to help, but they're like, oh, that's where they all die. So it was pretty harsh. But I started getting the doctors to help me put together information. And I realized this is a graph. And it showed how many grants IBC had gotten in the last 20 years. And if you look at breast cancers received 33,000 grants the last 20 years. IBC, which is the single most fatal, had received less than 150. Metastatic, stage 4, means you're already, deep in the fight. Look how, barely 1,000.
Right.
Male breast cancer, oh, sucks to be you. Sorry, guys. They get nothing. And by the way, about as many men are diagnosed with breast cancer as IBC. The numbers are rather similar, about 6,000. There has been one known male diagnosis of IBC in the last 20 years. It tends to be women. But I started realizing that there was places that needed action. And triple negative breast cancer, which is also a very aggressive form, which also a lot of times there's an overlap of IBC. It's a hormone driver or a lack of hormone driver. They've received less than 500. We are not paying attention to the people who need us in research funding. And that made me feel very confident that what I was doing wasn't a vanity project, that there was a niche I could help fill, and started the IBC Network.
Okay, and that's here, IBC Network. And this is the information, and you said it's the IBC Network.
We put in the, not out of proudness, but it also does seem a little braggart, but just for clarity.
Okay, because
for the URL. And if you Google Talk IBC, all of our social media comes up under that, and we use all the different forms to educate.
Okay, that's what's here. We have all these different things, and this will all be available at the end of the presentation for people to go to and look at.
And one thing I want to say is, since we didn't have our mission statement up, is there's a lot of wonderful charities out there that do things for breast cancer. We felt like the best way we could help women was to fund research. And also then educate the medical community. Like you said, Greg, you were a nurse, and I know that wasn't your specialty, but still, in 24 years, you'd never heard of it. Or you, as a woman who's going to under the pink education strongly, had never heard of it. So our mission is to fund research, and we're very, very lean, and I run this full-time as a volunteer, and then also to educate the medical community to where we write the CMEs and we do the different things to help them bring in education so then they can be better. Because this isn't offered typically in medical conferences or college and in your education, things like that. So we're bridging that gap. And then also we have to educate the lay community as to why this is important to care to donate. So that is our little triangle of trust that we are working on to guide how we operate.
All right, and we're almost at the end here, and I want to know, how far has your foundation reached?
It has been incredible. I was asked to do this by patients literally worldwide, but Lori's the one I give the most credit to because she put her foot down and said, you're going to have to do this. The IBC Network formed in 2011. We have since fostered off 3 other charities in other parts of the world that are following our model, and they're all run by volunteers as well. We have one in Canada, the UK, and Australia. We've had outreach from countries around the world that are wanting us to help start an IBC network in their country. We would have probably had 5 more, but the pandemic slowed things down.
Yeah.
But one of the things you talk about, and I love that you put a picture up here, were about the reach. There is a San Antonio Breast Cancer Conference every year in December. It is the single largest breast cancer conference in the world. I think it was the next slide. I just saw it. Or maybe one before. Where I saw it. So we'll find it in a minute. 8,000 doctors attend this conference every year. And it has never had IBC presented from the main stage, ever. I banged on that door and finally got them to agree. Because if they're going to a medical conference, it's not being presented. And I get it. They have to present what they think they're going to be able to do the most about.
Right.
But it was very edifying that was one of the larger sessions attended of that conference last December. About to go back to it this December. And I was incredibly honored that I was asked to be on the main stage with the presenters. So I feel our time is coming.
Right.
Yeah, but maybe you can find that slide.
Yeah, I would say we'll find it and put it up afterwards.
But it was, when you talk about the reach, when you think about literally that is an international conference.
Right.
So not only is our reach funding major research, we put in $2 million, and that seed funding has gone into multi-million dollars from the DOD or the NIH or whatever. So our reach is significant. But then to know there's also 3 other charities in other countries, and we were part of a presentation in San Antonio. It is truly a global effort.
Good.
And I run it off my kitchen table as a volunteer.
And that, I think that's the most amazing part of this entire story, is the fact that they talk about grassroots.
It is very grassroots.
You are grassroots as can be. It just...
And we need people to understand that, because they say, oh, you've been around a little while, you're doing good, we don't need to donate. Yes, we do.
Oh, no.
Yes, we do. Need you, because we don't have corporate sponsors. We don't have those major relationships. It is truly a grassroots movement.
I was going to say, for me personally, when I donate, I like to look at the person that I'm donating to, and I can look at you and say, when I donate to this charity, I know where it's going. It's not going in your pocket. It's not going to a corporate sponsor. It is going to help fund research to save somebody I may know.
Oh, and every time I give a talk, it never fails that they say it's rare. I gave a talk the other night in a very small group, and there were 3 people in the room who said they knew someone who passed from it. How likely is that? They weren't there because I was there. They just were there because it was a breast cancer talk.
Right.
But a small group. Or somebody will call me the next day and say, I've got this friend who's got this weird little thing going on, and now I knew what to do. And we either ruled it out or confirmed it. So I think the word rare gives us a false sense of security.
Right.
And that's why, though, it's so important to me to say hope always, because I don't want people to be scared. I want them to love themselves. I want them to get the best answers. And I want them to be wonderful old ladies one day,
right.
Bouncing the grandkid on their knee.
Right. And that's the big thing, is your work saves lives, and that your education can save lives, because ladies talk to each other.
Oh, we do, and that's how you get something done.
And that's exactly it. You have a friend going, the other day I had, and that's the way you do it, word of mouth.
It is. And we have a model that we try to follow, that 89 cents of every dollar goes to research.
Wonderful.
So we're as lean as we can be.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Well, do you have any last things you want to tell anybody?
Well, I'm just really glad that you're interested in what we're doing. I think that, like you said, woman to woman, and I'm also grateful for you here, Greg, as someone who is interested in media and education, but also as someone with a strong medical background, sees the need for this, because together we're going to do something to save lives.
All right. That's it. All right, ladies. You have anybody that has strange symptoms, point them to the IBC Network, or tell them, talk to your doctor about the IBC Network.
And I hope people share this article.
Yes. Share it. You could save a life.
Yep.
You never know. All right, Austin County, until next time, thank you, Terry.